Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our morning edition of Big Brother 22 All Stars Live Feed Spoilers. We are in day 12, and this video is all about giving you the results to the Power of Veto competition, otherwise known as that thing that you all thought was going to happen yesterday.
Yeah, we stayed up pretty late last night waiting for this, playing Minecraft and having some drinks, but it just never came.
Like, we usually in this situation, just to give you guys sort of a inside look into how we operate, we're waiting for the veto competition to just end. Yesterday, we were waiting for it to actually begin because it was getting later and later. And you can see how annoyed everybody in the house was by this too, that it just hadn't started yet.
Oh, and everyone waiting on the feeds, waiting and waiting and waiting for it. It was so hot here yesterday. We're in a really bad heat wave here. So they probably wanted to wait until it was a little bit safer outside.
So we'll talk all about this, and also Ian's punishment, which we haven't talked about yet, which is absolutely hilarious. But before we do anything else, if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Also, if you do want to support us further, we have mugs, shirts, all sorts of other cool stuff at the store. The link is in the description below, alongside a link to our Patreon, where in just a couple of weeks we're going to have our first live chat over there. We do those last Sunday of every month.
Okay, so let's start with who the players were. We had Memphis, of course, Nicole Anthony, of course, David. That's the usual. But then we also had Tyler, Ian, and Nicole F. that were all playing as well.
I kind of felt like entering this, I was just sort of like, okay, if you are Tyler and you are Ian, you have pretty much no real incentive to try to win this at all because you're trying not to put a huge target on your back.
Yeah, but as we know with Ian doesn't typically like want to throw stuff that's not really part of his game, but he did not win.
Yeah.
Tyler did not win. It was Memphis won this. So if you guys are kind of hoping that maybe something was gonna change up a little bit, we don't know, man. Memphis is such a wild card because it seems like whoever's in his ear and telling him to do something or asking him to do something, he just does the opposite. He doesn't want to do what anybody tells him to do.
Memphis is the ultimate opposite day house guest, and there's a part of me, I'm not saying it's a part of me I'm really proud of, but there's a part of me that I think is particularly enthused by this win because you are giving somebody who was basically been a condescending crazy person for the last couple of days on the feed, you are giving him even more power that is going to inevitably go to this man's head where he thinks that he can do almost anything. And if I was a player in this game and I wanted him to do something with it, I would totally do something kind of like this. Memphis, you've been such an amazing player these past couple of days. I'm so proud of you. You need to establish yourself. You can be better than Dan Giesling. Just like pump up that ego and make it like a balloon that eventually he's just going to pop it and it's just going to explode and go all over the place.
It really is whatever you want him to do, you need to feed him the opposite. Because he has not listened to anybody. He really does want to separate himself from Dan and show that he's, also a guy who pulls the strings and makes his own decisions, and he's not influenced by Dan or anybody. And it's so interesting with Memphis's HOH how present Dan still is in this game, even though he's not there.
Can we call shenanigans on this competition? I mean, we haven't actually seen it, granted, but it sounds a lot like this competition heavily favored the dudes. Like, it seemed like there was a little bit of, bicep action going on here, and Nicole Anthony was embarrassed after the fact. It sounds as though she did really, really terribly on all of it, which I guess kind of stinks really for both Nicoles because they didn't have any chance to win this whatsoever.
Yeah, and this is the second time this season that we've had a competition that I feel was unfairly balanced towards the men, where, we had that one at the very beginning with the table and you put the ball in it, and the women's were all the way at the end and the men's were at the top. So they had chances to make more mistakes. And now we're in this position where you're going to have a competition that, yes, we haven't seen yet, but it sounds like you had to have a lot of sort of upper body strength. Nicole A is not going to have a chance. I would be this. I'm about the same sort of small person as her. I would have no chance at something like that.
Yeah, and this is like tinfoil hat adjacent, so I'm gonna put it on anyway. But like, it's
You're busting it out early today.
I'm busting it out early, and I may not even be busting it out for the right thing, because I think the tinfoil hat theory here is gonna be, okay, well, obviously Grodner doesn't want a woman to win this challenge or make it further in the game, and I know that they probably build these a long time before the nominees are announced, but still, you know that there are a lot of likable women on this season and people that fans are going to want to root for. So you're still, regardless of not knowing who's competing, you're still putting something out there. I do not believe for a second that the challenge people know, oh, Nicole Anthony, she's going to secretly reveal herself to be like She-Hulk and she's going to dominate this challenge.
No, and I mean, in general, not a lot of us, men and women, have a lot of upper body strength. So, I mean, let's just kind of make these challenges a little more fair for everybody. It's just, yeah, this was shenanigans.
Nicole Anthony would probably beat me in this challenge, so if you...
Nicole Anthony would beat me. I have zero upper body strength. I'd be done.
I think we have already established that I would lose every single competition in Big Brother, so I think that's probably a situation where she could beat me. But this is where we are right now, and because it was like at such like an ungodly late hour when all of this ended, it was really only a handful of hours ago.
Yep.
I kind of feel like it was in a situation where a lot of people just wanted to go to bed, so we haven't really seen enough fallout from this yet to know what Memphis is going to do.
Yeah, and I mean, Memphis has been really kind of terrible at sharing what he wants to do anyways. Yeah. I mean, even before this veto played, people were coming to him to be like, hey, so if so-and-so wins, what are we going to do? Or, you know, whatever, coming with situations, which is normal Big Brother gameplay. And he just didn't want to talk to anybody. He was just like, come to me when it's, won. Let's deal with it when we have a situation, which is kind of strange because you do need to be a couple steps ahead whenever this happens. He is not sharing.
This is kind of what makes it hard to predict what he's going to do, but I feel like he's probably going to keep nominations the same unless somebody mounts some sort of big campaign towards him, just because he clearly doesn't want to have to nominate Janelle or Kaser because he already had an opportunity to do so. And it doesn't sound like he's ever going to be BFFs with Nicole Anthony or David anytime soon anyway, so why not just leave them there?
Yeah, and I mean, he had somewhat of a conversation with Nicole Anthony that didn't seem to really go anywhere, where she tried to pledge some loyalty to him. But I mean, I just think Memphis doesn't really care which person goes home, to be honest. I think it's just I'm not really working with either of these people, so neither of them are going to get me further in this game.
Yeah, and it's fine if Memphis doesn't care about all of this, but he needs to just change your tone over the next couple of days, Memphis.
Please.
Don't act as though you are holier than thou with the people who are on the block, and also, by the way, the people who are in your own alliance who are probably going to spend the next 24 hours. Nicole F, anyway, doing things like, I invited Janelle to my wedding. How dare she not want to work with me as well? And this happened for like 30 minutes overnight.
Oh my God.
Where this is her justification that she can't believe that Janelle would be conspiring against potentially getting her on the block.
It is very weird that game stuff then just comes outside the house as well. Like, keep the game in the game, guys. That's it. Once the game is over, it's over.
I think this is probably why it feels like a lot of the seasons where you have people who come off of them really, really bitter are always like returnee seasons, and I think it's because they do sort of know each other and they have big egos, so they think that people owe them something within the context of the game.
Okay, so who do we think the house is actually going to end up voting out if he keeps them the same? Because I do think he's going to keep them the same. I don't think he has enough incentive to put someone else on, because they've already tried to push him backdooring Janelle. He has put that down every single time. He has no real incentive to do that. Janelle's not coming after him, so he doesn't care. So that's that with that. But the thing is I know that like Janelle's been pushing to keep Nicole Anthony with Memphis, but Memphis doesn't have any real control over this. So where do we see this going? If it stays the same, who's going?
I think Nicole Anthony is probably going to be evicted if that is the case, because Tyler is already sort of working closely with David to some degree. I think Cody probably would feel fairly similar. I think Davon and Bailey, they've already kind of talked a little bit about this. I think they like Nicole Anthony, but I think they probably would lean towards keeping David in the game as well. I think there's going to be support for both people, obviously, but also with Nicole F. and Podcast Gate and everything else, she's not going to want to keep Nicole Anthony either.
No, she is not going to want to keep Nicole Anthony. But I do wonder if this is a bit like last week where we saw Keisha not really come forward to do a lot of campaigning and Kevin just like campaigned and it worked. If this is going to be another one of these situations, because David has been having some conversations, kind of like Keisha. He's been talking to people and hanging out and being friendly, but he's also been hanging back, and you can't really do that during the campaign part. So I'm hoping to see David is going to really campaign during this part. I'm not saying I want to see Nicole Anthony go home. I don't want to see either one of them go home. But we're in the same situation as last week where it's two people on the block that I just don't want to see leave the house.
These are both likable people, and they do represent the most recent season, and they represent a few of the very small good things that were on this most recent season of the show.
Yes.
Speaking of good things, though, I've been waiting to discuss Ian's punishment for the entirety of this video. Okay, so Ian, he was given the safety by Christmas, and as we have sort of learned, in doing this, being safe comes a punishment. This may be one of my favorite all-time punishments. It is tremendous. So
it's pretty good.
And I think a part of it is just that Ian is always so good with these punishments. Like, remember the dog costume?
He's so good with the punishments. I saw a little snippet of him, and he's like rolling around on the ground and being really dramatic. Ian, I love him. I can't. I love him.
Ian is
cute.
He's having to wear these alien space costumes, and a lot of this happened while we were asleep, so we've had to like catch up on some of it. It's like an all-Star Wars, like that's what the book that they're reading from is called. And it sounds as though Ian has to not only wear costumes, but reenact scenes. So it's, I guess, kind of similar to that. I think it was Haley who had to wear like the Shakespeare outfit or whatever. Yeah. It's a little bit like that, but I've seen him dressed as like an astronaut. I've seen him wear a leotard and what looks like a space loincloth.
That was, and then he's rolling on the ground. It was so good. It's so entertaining. It's always really fun when you have people who are willing to throw themselves into their punishment like this.
Yes, and as a big space guy in general, I have been obsessing over a Mass Effect rumor that may not even be true over the past week or so.
I am also a space nerd. The only tattoo I have is space related.
So it is we're all in on this. I love the idea also that sometimes it seems as though he needs like an assist from other people in the house to finish it. I saw Dave Vaughn wearing this like really crazy space mask. Just the visual of it was so funny. And I love that Davon and Bailey as well, they both have been participating with Ian a lot. And that makes me like them even more. People who go along with the punishment and cheer people on. And I think it also matters a lot to somebody like Ian.
For sure. I mean, he has said that he's been struggling a little bit in the house, sort of not having something to focus on. Now he's got this to focus on, but he does have people who are there with him with it, which is going to make this a lot easier. And it's going to make it a lot more entertaining, because if nobody's watching him, then, are we going to get these dramatic, he's rolling on the floor moments?
This is going to be my version of last season when they did the pies in the face, and I irrationally loved this because I thought pies in the face are always funny.
So the other thing we do have to talk about before we get out of this is yesterday we were talking about how Danny, it was in a really sweet spot. Danny's own alliance is starting to lose trust in her because she is playing too many sides. It is day 12. People have started to kind of figure it out.
We gave Danny the kiss of death by saying that she's in a good spot. I don't think people are targeting her next or anything.
No,
but
I don't think it's there, but she needs to reel it in.
she needs to reel it in. It's something to be watchful for today. There is starting to be a concern that she's talking too much, but we'll have an update on that a little bit later in addition to a lot of other things. But what do you think is going to happen now that Memphis has the power of veto? Let us know in the comments, and if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe. Support us further. Check those links in the description to the store, to our Patreon, and we'll see you here next time.